Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Burwell, welcome, and you're welcome to your family and friends. I also enjoyed our meeting earlier and appreciate your willingness to step forward and serve. It is a sacrifice, particularly with with a young family, so you know what you're getting into. So thank you for your willingness to do that. I'll also have an opportunity to question you during the Budget Committee confirmation hearing as well. So let me concentrate on the management side. From my standpoint, the regulatory side. I was in Wisconsin the last 2 weeks and visited one company who I don't want to name, but they were talking about the new Boiler MAC rule, that they've had an engineering study conducted on it. It'll cost them about $5 million to hopefully be able to comply. That was the cost. The benefit, and this is an independent engineering study, they would be able to reduce the non-toxic particulate matter coming out of their operation by 2 dump truck loads full per year. That's it. To me, that certainly qualifies under the law of diminishing returns as something we really need to take a look at. And so in your position at OMB, what would be your response to that? How can we do a far more effective job at evaluating those types of regulations that have such a high cost at such a minimum benefit?
Senator, not familiar with that specific example, but in terms of overall philosophy and how that we can work to make our regulatory system work in a more effective way, I think it's starting with what the principles of what we're trying to do with the regulation and thinking through the issues of we do the regulations in order to promote health, safety, and the environment. At the same time, consider how those regulations impact the economy, economic growth, innovation, and jobs, and putting those things together through a process of which OIRA is an important part of making sure that things are appropriately considered, looking at the cost-benefit analysis, which agencies do, thinking through have the appropriate parties had an opportunity to comment and be a part of the discussion, and whether that's inside the government or outside the government. And so if I am confirmed, I look forward to helping OIRA in terms of implementing that oversight role in regulation.
Okay. You raised an important issue in terms of having people affected by regulations having input into the process. Between 1998 and 2010, the opportunities for public comment has really declined. In other words, the times regulations have been issued without opportunity for public comment has basically doubled from 18% of the time to 35% of the time. Is that something that troubles you? Is that something you would direct your attention toward solving?
I think there are 2 elements to that question of the public comment. And one, I think you're referring to interim rules, the issuance of interim rules and the use of those as a tool. And if I am confirmed, I want to make sure that any use of interim rules is both lawful and appropriate. At the same time, in the broader category of regulation, one of the things that I think has changed since the time when I was previously at the Office of Management and Budget is the opportunity that people can actually comment using technology. So that expands the ability for people to discuss and comment in the rulemaking process. Because I think as we think about public comment and transparency, we want to think about it over the entirety. But with regard to the specific issue you're raising, interim rules, that's something that I want to understand how and why those rules, when they are interim, what are the decisions and how they're made.
Okay. One of the macro pieces of information that was pretty eye-popping to me when I came here was really a study commissioned by the Small Business Administration under this administration that tried to put a figure on how much it costs to comply with federal regulations each year, and their result was $1.75 trillion per year. Put that into perspective, that's a number that's larger than all but 80 economies in the world. I know some people dispute that figure. I have no idea how particularly accurate it is, other than we know the regulatory burden is huge. Is that something you acknowledge? Do you dispute the figure, or and again, do you just acknowledge the harm that the regulatory burden is causing to economic growth and job creation?
So, Senator, with regard to the issue of small business, one that my father was a small businessman, and so understand and appreciate that he was an optometrist. And when I think about that at OMB, I think it actually cuts across a number of areas that are important. And one is in the regulatory space, and I think that's an important role that OMB has in making sure that SBA and small business has a voice, and I think that's part of the oversight role. I think throughout a number of other different areas in small business, whether it's in the area of strategic sourcing, the Strategic Sourcing Leadership Council has 7 of the largest contracting members and small business, so that that voice is at the table. Or as we think about questions of insourcing and those types of topics, making sure that we consider small business. So I think across the board, the issues of how different actions of government affect small business are important, and one of the most important things we can do is make sure the right voices are at the table.
What proposals have you heard coming out of potentially out of Congress that would help modernize our regulatory burden?
That is something that, one of the things that I'm hopeful, if confirmed, that I can get deeper into where are the places where people think things aren't working. For instance, the look back that has occurred, and again, something related to small business in terms of the look back and thinking about things, regulations we no longer need. That's a process that's ongoing. There were 500 things identified. How is that process going, and should we build on that process, change that process? What are the specifics? Because one of the things that I think is important in thinking through the tools that OMB has or doesn't have is, what's the outcome we're trying to get and what's not working right now? Are there places where we do have best practices that are working that we need to build on, or are there places where things aren't working we need to stop? And so, if confirmed, what I would like to do is understand what that list looks like, working with this committee to understand that so we can get at the ones that are the largest and the most important to change.
Just a quick suggestion. We held a pretty interesting hearing chaired by Senator Mark Warner about the British one-in, one-out rule. So for every new regulation, you have to find one of equal or greater compliance costs to get rid of. I'd go more 1 in 10 out, but that's editorial comment. One last quick question. I believe this committee has been very well served by the efforts of GAO. Mm-hmm. It's really one of the areas of government where we've actually cut their budget. And as a fiscal conservative, it'd be one of those areas I'd probably be willing to increase our budget. Just kind of want to get your quick assessment on that and your level of support for the GAO.
I think the GAO is actually an important partner for all of us as we try to move to more effective and efficient government. And the report that came out today, I think, is something that we need to take a close look at and work on. I think the administration has, in some cases, worked on those issues. I know that the Congress has as well. But I think GAO is an important partner to have these conversations, looking for those opportunities to make government more effective and efficient. And I welcome that opportunity if confirmed.
Okay, well, thank you. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow and talk about budget. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.